Welcome to the Rum Revival. My name's Arminder, and today I'm highlighting a number of newly released and newly announced rums from the last month or so. These aren't necessarily available everywhere in the US right now. Some of these rums have only just come out or have just been announced, so it might take a few weeks before they're available throughout the country, but definitely keep an eye out for them. So there are a lot of Jamaican rums to cover on this list, so let's start off with the three brand new additions to Worthy Park's core lineup. We have Worthy Park Select, Silver, and Overproof. So let's start off with the Overproof, which is probably the rum in this video that I think the most people are excited about. I mean, I know I am. Now, what makes this stand out from all of the other unaged, high-proof, funky Jamaican rums is that this is actually made not only from molasses, but also from cane juice. And it's that use of cane juice that I think has gotten a lot of people really excited. Now, both the molasses and the cane juice are sourced from and made entirely at the Worthy Park estate. The rum is pot distilled and then bottled at that magical 63% ABV, and the rum is priced around $33. So I actually had a small pour of the rum a few months back, and I really enjoyed it, but it was just a few sips in some not so ideal conditions. I did get some banana, a little bit of brine, and some cane, but I didn't get the opportunity to try it in cocktails, which of course will be the true test. How does it do in a daiquiri or a Ray and Ting? How does it compare to Worthy Park's other unaged overproof Jamaican rum, the Rum Bar Overproof? And then of course there's the question of how does it compare to the rest of the unaged overproof Jamaican rums in the category, like Rumfire, Money Musk Overproof, and Ray and Nephew. Those are all really good questions that, I don't know, maybe if someone had all of those bottles on hand, they could maybe, I don't know, try them in a bunch of different cocktails to compare them all. Well, it's a real shame that absolutely no one will ever do something like that. Next up is the Worthy Park Silver. Now this is an unaged blend of three different pot still marks or rums, the WPL, the WPEL, and the WPE marks. Now, if that sort of sounds familiar to you, well that's because that's exactly what Rum Bar Silver is. And in fact, this release is just entirely a rebranded version of Rum Bar Silver. That's it. No change in the formula or anything like that. It's bottled at 40% ABV like it always has been, and it's priced around $30. Next up is the Worthy Park Select. Now, unlike the Silver, this is not a rebranded version of, say, Rum Bar Gold, where Rum Bar Gold is a pot still rum primarily aged 4 years with a touch of older rums in the blend. The Select is a blend of rums aged between 4 to 12 years with much more older stock in the blend. It's bottled at 40% ABV and priced around $35. So what does all of this mean for the Rum Bar lineup? Well, here in the States and in certain EU markets, it's going to be completely phased out to focus on the Worthy Park brand. So if you like Rum Bar Overproof and you live in the US, you better stock up on it now. Next up, we have another Worthy Park release. This time, it's a single cask release from independent bottler Holmes Cay. This is their Jamaica WPL 2012 edition, with the subheading being Rum Lab New York Rum Fest 23 Jury's Choice. Now, as the name indicates, this is a rum from Worthy Park, specifically their WPL mark. It's all molasses, it's all pot still. It was aged first 8 years at Worthy Park, and then another 3 years of aging in Europe, all in an ex-bourbon cask. It's bottled at 57.14% ABV and priced at $100. So this release is a sort of collab between Holmes Cay and Rum Lab, the folks that put on the New York Rum Fest, the Miami Rum Congress, and the SF Rum Fest. Now, during the 2023 New York Rum Fest, Holmes Cay put on a seminar where all attendees got to taste a couple of different single cask rums and pick their favorite. Now, the one with the most votes would be selected to actually be released by Holmes Cay, and this WPL release was the winning rum. And guess who happened to be there at that event? And guess who voted? And guess who doesn't really remember anything about how that rum tastes? To be fair, I don't really remember what happened yesterday, so I can't really be expected to remember how a rum tasted like a year ago. Also, I think I might have voted for a different rum at that tasting. Next up, we have a new Habitation Velier release of a blend of Hampden Estate rums. Now, the blend was put together by importer PM Spirits and distributor Prestige LeDroit when they visited Hampden in 2022. It consists of 3 marks, the LFCH, LROK, and Diamond H, and it's made up of 10 barrels and it's bottled at cask strength at 60% ABV. Now, while it is a blend of aged rums, we don't know how long each of the components were aged for. There's no age statement for the release, and it will only be available in New York, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Delaware. Next up is an Appleton release that will not be available in the US, but it's only for the 2.8% of you that are watching right now that live in Canada. Hello, Canada, how are you? This is the Appleton 8 Double Cask Speyside Whiskey Cask Finish. Now, it takes the standard Appleton 8 year and finishes it in single malt Scotch whiskey casks from the Speyside region of Scotland. Now, the amount of time it's been finished in those casks has not been shared, nor which specific scotch those casks previously held. However, Appleton did share that the casks previously held Master Blender Joy Spence's favorite 18-year Speyside single malt scotch. And well, given the fact that Appleton is owned by Campari, and Campari also owns the Glen Grant Scotch brand, there's a good chance that it's Glen Grant 18. But you could also base that on the fact that about 4 years ago, someone asked Joy Spence on a Reddit AMA what her favorite scotch was, and she said Glen Grant 18. So mystery solved. That is, if you trust anything you read on the internet. It's bottled at 43% ABV with a total of 13,000 bottles produced, and as mentioned, it's only available in Canada for around 48 Canadian dollars. So guess who just happened to be in Canada about 2 weeks ago? And guess who was very excited to get their hands on a bottle? And guess who was very disappointed when it turned out that the rum wouldn't be out until the following weekend when they were no longer there in Canada? Awesome. Let's move on to another rum that you can't get in the US, at least for right now. It's the 2024 edition of the Black Tot Master Blenders Reserve. Now, every year Black Tot puts out a new blend in July, and each year's blend starts off with the previous year's blend as a base, and to that, rums from around the world are layered on top. Now, while the exact components of this year's blend have not been revealed, what we do know is that this blend will have a greater emphasis on rums from Barbados. It will include a high proportion of rums from Foursquare, Mount Gay, and West Indies Rum Distillery. To quote Master Blender Oliver Chilton, for this new release, we wanted to focus on the warmth and fruit of rums from Barbados, which has given us a foundation of juicy pineapple, lime, and sweet melon. That sounds pretty tasty. He didn't say that part, that was me. The blend will be bottled at 54.5% ABV with a total of 3,000 bottles produced. It will be released globally, with the exception of the US, on July 1st. That's gonna be priced around 145 pounds, and I suspect we won't see it in the US for another couple of months, but I'll definitely keep you posted. Now, from one master blender to the next, let's move on to the newest addition to Mount Gay's Master Blender collection. This is the Coffey Still Expression. Now, it's made 100% with molasses from Barbados that's been fermented in open oak vats and then distilled on the titular all-copper coffee still. And that was the first time I've ever used titular in a sentence, and not gonna lie, that kind of felt a little weird. Now, this all-copper coffee still is only one of 3 in the world that is currently operating. And this is a still that was originally installed in the early 1940s, and then it was decommissioned and dismantled in 1976. Mount Gay then recommissioned it in 2018, and this rum here is the first time since the still came back online that rum from it has been released. Anyways, after distillation, the rum is aged 4 years in heavily charred ex-bourbon barrels and then bottled at 58% ABV with no chill filtration, no caramel, no sugar added. In total, there are 5,004 bottles produced, and it's priced at $240. Now, this release is a tribute to Reynold Hines, who was better known as Blues. He worked at Mount Gay for over 50 years, and he passed away in 2021 and was a key part of restoring the still. As such, the still is named Blues Still in his honor. Next up, we have 2 brand new releases from Alambique Serrano out of Mexico. Now, this is a fairly new brand that primarily features aged cane juice rums made by the Crassel family in Oaxaca. First up is the brand's first unaged offering. This is the Cartier 30. Like with all of their rums, it's made from the Java cane varietal that's grown 4,000 feet above sea level. The cane is crushed and naturally fermented and distilled on the family's Crassel column still, and is bottled at still strength at 70.3% ABV. Now, the Cartier in the name is a reference to an older scale used to measure alcohol instead of what we use now, ABV. And Cartier 30 is basically the equivalent of around 70% ABV. So I was fortunate enough to get a quick little sneak peek at this rum a few months back, and it was just a sip or two, but I gotta say, man, it was amazing. It was a big, impactful rum, and it wasn't even coming from the ABV, it was just so much flavor. So if you love big, bold, unaged rums, then I think you're really gonna dig this. Next up is blend number 5, El Boxeador. Now, this is a exclusive store pick for Prizefighter, which is a fantastic bottle shop and bar in Emeryville, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, normally I don't really cover like store barrel picks or anything like that. It's just like so hyper specific, and there's only usually a couple hundred bottles, and most people who are watching this aren't gonna be able to get your hands on it. But 1, I actually love Prizefighter, it's an amazing bar, and 2, the rum is amazing, so I want you to know about it. So this is a 50-50 blend of pot and calm still rums. The calm still rum was aged for 27 months in a first fill ex-bourbon cask, and the pot still rum was aged for 19 months in a new French oak cask. Those 2 rums are blended together and then bottled at 65.9% ABV, and it's priced at $70. Now, I've already mentioned this rum in a previous video, and it's really simply stunning. Lovely notes of clove and nutmeg and almost like a ginger molasses cookie. And it's almost like a bummer that it's only available in one location, but I think it makes it that much more special. And if that means more folks are gonna have to trek it out to Prize Fighter, I'm all for that. Seriously, they have a killer back bar, a great beer list, and some amazing cocktails. And you might even find me there hanging out at the bar. Next up, we have the newest 100 proof Kea release from KoHana out on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. Now, the Kea is KoHana's unaged, rotating single cane varietal release. Year-round, it's available at 40% ABV, but around once a year, they release one that's at 50%. Now, this particular release is made entirely from the Mahaiaula cane varietal. Now, while I haven't had this particular varietal, the previous 100 proof Keas have really made for some fantastic daiquiri rums, and I'm looking forward to doing the same with this one. Now, the rum will be available on KoHana's website starting June 29th, and it will be priced at $50 for a 750 milliliter bottle. Now, each bottle is numbered and has a commemorative distillery series etching on the back. Hey, remember the Muki release from Raising Glasses a couple of months back? It was a 6-year-old single cask rum from Ecuador that featured a booze-hungry murder goblin on the label. Well, if you're looking for the same rum but with something a bit scarier on the label, then check out the Florida Rum Society's pick of the same rum. That, my friends, is the stuff of nightmares. Obviously, I'm joking. That's a very cool looking label, even though it's not really here physically. Who wouldn't want a rum with a flamingo wearing sunglasses? Now, it's in pretty limited supply at various Florida retailers, and it will be available on the Raising Glasses website. And the last release is not a rum, but it's actually a liqueur made from rum. It's Clement's Bana Canne. It's a blend of unaged rum agricole, cane syrup, and a natural banana extract made from bananas grown at Habitation Clement. It's bottled at 25% ABV and priced around $35. This release joins Clement's other two liqueurs, the Mahina Cocoa and the Creole Shrub. Now, those two bottles have been rebranded to align with the look and feel of the Bana Canne. Well, there you go. Those are the newly released or newly announced rums from the last month or so. Now, do any of these stand out to you? Are you planning on getting any of them? I'd love to know, so let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you're interested in checking out some exclusive behind-the-scenes content and first impressions videos where I try a rum for the very first time and give you my gut reaction to it, then consider checking out and supporting me on my Patreon. I have tons of content there that I think you'll really like. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Cheers.